Welcome to Raptors. Today I'm Savanna Hamilton, joined by Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will, of course, be joining us a little bit later. Now, the Raptors are just on fire. 6 in a row they have won so far. So, Jonesy, let's take a look at this past game against the Charlotte Hornets. We had 4 players score over 20 points. Let's see what happens, throughout the season. We've seen so much growth, but let's touch on one player in particular. Pascal Siakam. Jonesy, we heard the news that LaMelo Ball will be replacing Kevin Durant in the All-Star game, but Pascal Siakam, give him his flowers. He has been playing like an All-Star this season.
He sure has. I mean, he's coming off the Eastern Conference Player of the Week award, and I'm sure deep down there was a little bit of motivation there, having somebody else named in a spot that he figured he could have had. But look, Pascal was able to justify it. He goes out, he uses it as motivation. During his Player of the Week award, he averaged, 25, 11, and 5. And, you talk about his level of play right now, Savannah. He is doing everything to make the defense react to him and then take it from there. He can get into the lane. He's making shots. He's scoring. He's looking for teammates. He was almost a triple-double again last night against Charlotte. Raptors now 3-1 when they have 4 guys scoring 20. And Pascal's contributions to that from sharing the ball have a lot to do with it. I mean, there's only 5 guys in the NBA averaging 28 and 5. And Pascal's one of them. The other are Luka, Giannis, James Harden, and Jokic. So he's playing like an all-star. There's no doubt about it. But I'm sure Pascal's going to take this time over the All-Star break when he's not playing to recharge, and he knows what it's like to climb the hill at the end of the season in the playoffs. So he'll give LaMelo a drink of water now, looking for the whole jug at the end of the season.
Oh, absolutely. I think those are some great names to be in company with. You talk about some of the best players in the league and Giannis and Jokic and everybody who's having those season averages as well so far. And, I can't help but think of just how well he played, as you mentioned, like gave him a little bit of a glass of water last night, but, he dropped 24 points and had 11 rebounds while holding, LaMelo as a team, I guess, but to 15 points and 9 assists. But, that's just not typically LaMelo's game. He's a bit more of a contributor that way. So definitely some fire in the engine, but let's move on. Let's talk about Gary Trent Jr. Sherm, because, he cooled off a little bit from his 30-point streak, I guess you want to call it. But I mean, cooled off, I say hesitantly, because he still had like 24 points as well against Charlotte. So, how does he change the game in terms of both his offense and defense?
Well, Gary Trent, as you said, had 24, but he was 8 of 16 from the floor, so 50% as well. Gary Trent, to me, has been the guy when he hasn't been on the floor that the Raptors have missed because of his individual ability to be able to score on his own. He can get offense off without actually having a play run for him, but also defensively. He can create offense on that end as well with his activity, his ability to read the defense and get deflections and steals. So I think he's kind of a wild card when it comes to, they're paying a lot of attention to Fred. They're paying a lot of attention to Pascal. Well, now you have Gary Trent Jr., who's healthy, who's flowing, who's in rhythm, and he can literally go get 30 on his own. And that's something that makes his team much more difficult to handle. The other thing I like about Gary in that game against Charlotte was he got off to a great start. Like that first quarter for the Raptors was excellent. They scored efficiently, and he led them with 11 points. And this has been a problem for the Raptors, getting off to good starts consistently. So it's great to see them do that, but Gary Trent was the leader, and that kind of self-motivator to start the game is a great look for the Raptors. But in terms of what I think he can do for this team, he helps them get to the next level when he's consistent. Not with the 30-plus points. That was a great stretch. But hanging around this 24, 20 points per game, he's a very, very valid and lethal contributor because he can make big plays at different times. And times when the Raptors might lag offensively, Gary can just get something. And that, to me, is so valuable in this NBA.
Absolutely. And I think about the fact that they have won 6 games in a row. And these 6 games were no walk in the park either. We're talking overtime and double and triple overtime and everything. So you can't help but give the Raptors their credit. You know, they're only 4.5 games behind in the East right now. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But right now we're going to hear from Pascal Siakam following the Charlotte Hornets game.
Feels good. I think we just like focus on the game plan and kind of like executing whatever coach was talking about early on, kind of knowing what to do and stuff. Worked out for us that the first quarter, and then our first half. So I think we got to start more games like that. Just being on point from the start. I think we always thought we could compete all the time. Just seeing our personnel and the guys that we have. I think it was just always about, again, having everyone together, and then also understanding that coming into these games, like following the game plan and sticking to it and knowing what we do and having the length and the guys that we have on the team, understanding that we can compete against anybody in the league. So I think that's kind of like what we always done, and sometimes it works, sometimes you're gonna win games, sometimes you're not. But I think as long as we come in with that intensity, like, we'll be all right. I think for me, like, just being on the ball, like, most of the time, it just helps me also for my rhythm, to be honest. Just not feeling like, you're just out there. Just being involved in the offense, making I think for me, like, just, I get some type of joy just from like, understanding the plays and talking to Fred and seeing what he sees out there and understanding the game in a different way, than just like me trying to score every time. And I think that, that part of the game is fun. And, I've been enjoying that. And I think it comes with a little bit of turnovers, but it is what it is, like you with it and trying to get better at it. And I think the more, those situations, the better for our team.
Jonesy, we got to talk about Fred VanVleet. What an all-star season he has been having. We've seen him contribute many different ways across the court, but specifically in three-point shooting. So it has been reported that he may be participating in the 3-point competition at All-Star Weekend. No surprise there. But let's talk about the growth of his game, especially this season that we've seen from beyond the arc.
Yeah, well, I go back to, I trace, the advent, the genesis of this back to the playoff series against Milwaukee in the championship run. The Raptors, Fred had a tough time in the first couple of series against Orlando and Philly, and people were starting to whisper about his size and does he get bothered by the length? And then now here they are playing Milwaukee with Giannis and Middleton and all this length. And Nick Nurse, first of all, Fred Jr. was born, so that was something that made it a lot easier for him, and then Nick Nurse just went to him and said, "Hey man, you got that range. Just back up. Make them come out and guard you. If they don't want to guard you, you can knock it down from there. If they do come out and guard you, you can go by them." And when we see Fred take threes now, he's not standing on the line. He's way, way behind the line. He's really stretching the floor. He has the confidence. He has the skill. He has the ability to make it. And now, with the way the Raptors are playing and sharing the ball, and Fred not always having to be the guy that dishes out the sugar, he's getting more opportunity. So it's just kind of a natural progression. And then you just talk about his leadership, the way he's been leading this team and the things that he's been doing. And it's kind of like we're all of that same, we can relate to this, where parents look at kids a certain way and the look says, this is what I expect from you. We've seen Fred do that to Gary Trent Jr. We've seen him do it with Scotty Barnes. We've seen him as a co-leader with Pascal communicate with head nods and little verbal messages. So not only is he playing well, his leadership is really, really coming to the forefront as well. And I just love what Fred's doing. I'm glad he was rewarded as an all-star. And I tell you what, if the reports are true, if he is in that 3-point contest in Cleveland, don't, no pun intended here, don't bet against him.
Are you sure the pun's not intended?
Maybe it is.
Fair enough. Honestly, some of the shots that I see Fred VanVleet take, especially over this season, but throughout his career, really, sometimes I'm closing my eyes like, oh goodness, I don't know about that. And it goes swish right in. And so you can't help but like, wow, like it's just astonishing to see. how his performance has grown. And I don't know, I think he's inspired a lot of people to get to have some kids these days. I don't know, but sure. We got to talk about OG Anunoby because he also had a 20-point game against Charlotte. And you look at OG's game, and it's well-rounded in the fact that he's a physical player, and he's really showing that he also has the ability to not only back you down, but also shoot on top of you.
And that's an understatement. You mean dunk on top of people too. I mean, OG's doing a great job in terms of using his physicality. Now, we understood OG at one point in his career was the guy who would defend and go stand in the corner and shoot that corner three. He's expanded his game. He can operate off the dribble. He can break you down. He can create space with step backs. He can attack and get all the way to the basket. He's even got a fadeaway one-leg shot when he gets into the paint. So he's clearly worked on his game. But the physicality you're speaking to, Savanna, is something that he's got to continue to play with. And I love the way they're utilizing him. Look, the Raptors don't have your typical big guy who's going to go down there and be physical in the paint. You know, Pascal used to be a guy who was rim running when he had Kyle and he had Freddie at the point. So he could just get out on the floor and transition people to death. Now he's a ball handler. He's a playmaker. So he's hanging back more. But what the Raptors have done with OG has made him the initial rim runner as a guard, as a big, powerful guard. And we're seeing the Raptors utilize his ability to get ahead of the defense, behind the defense sometimes, throw that pass over the top. And OG is so strong that when he goes up, he's finishing above the rim with force. And he's just playing power ball. That game yesterday, there was a possession, with Kelly Oubre defending him. Probably lengthwise, he's OG's height. But physically, he was not no match. And OG just went straight through his chest and put him under the basket and laid it in. Mm-hmm. That's bully ball. That's OG, and he has the skill to match if he has to mix it up. So I love what he's doing. And consider this. They have Fred. They have Pascal. They have Gary Trent Jr., who can score the basketball. And somehow, some way, without getting a ton of plays called for him, OG is quietly putting together a very good season, scoring the basketball and doing what he does. I tip my hat to him. He's not at the top of the discussion when we talk about players in the game, but he's been so good, so consistent, and so much of a guy that Nick Nurse can rely on game in, game out.
It's actually kind of scary, the fact that OG is the dark horse on this team.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, to have that as your third, fourth option is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Now we're going to hear from head coach Nick Nurse and also Chris Boucher, who's been a big contributor off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're trying to, get these guys to figure out when the time to, if they've got a size and strength matchup. You know, we're trying to find those across the floor when we're playing this. I don't know what we call it, semi-big lineup, right? It's a lot of big wings out there. We kind of got, three big wings out there, and usually one of them can get a size and strength advantage. And we need to, take it in there against those and then make the reads from there. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think we're, obviously there's some chemistry building. There's some toughness. We've been put in a lot of interesting situations, and we've seemed to come out okay on the other side of all of them. So, yeah, I think we're growing, and guys are getting better, and we're learning each other a little bit more each night out.
No, I've been doing this for a minute, but I mean, obviously, like, we're in a row. I feel like everybody's like having fun, and I also feel like I'm like kind of the energy of the team now. So, I was just trying to have fun with it and keep going this streak because, like I said, I think we're a good team and we're doing great things. And we had a lot of games where it didn't go our way, but it seems to go our way this time. So let's enjoy it while we're doing it. It feels good. I mean, obviously, I think that's something that you want out of your coach. You want your coach to think that he can put you in the game and you can change your game and have confidence in you. So it definitely feels good to know that. Jokes aside, I should have been doing that a long time ago. So I'll say that. But, never too late to, you're never too late to do the right thing and figure out your game and find ways to be a winning team. And like Masai said, we want to win, so we have everything to win. Any play that I have to do for us to win, that's what I'm focusing on now.
We're now going to head over to Amy Audibert.
Thank you so much, Sav. I'm here in Oklahoma City, and I'm so excited for this matchup. There's always a couple teams in the NBA every season whose record isn't that great, but they come hard to play every single night. Enter the Oklahoma City Thunder, who at 17-36 don't look the flashiest. They're sitting at 14th in the West, but the Toronto Raptors know how hard they are. But remember back on December 8th when OKC was at home at the Scotiabank Arena and they ended up getting a win from the Toronto Raptors. And that was a tough fought game. It all went down to that third quarter. OKC outscored the Raptors 33-12 in that frame. And then, of course, Justin Champagne's last minute tip on the offensive rebound didn't count. It was waved off. It was about a millisecond too late. Point being here, if you let this OKC team hang around, they are really tough in close games late. Let's talk a little bit about their PG at 6'8" and 19 years old. Joshua Giddey from Australia is having one heck of a rookie season. In fact, he's the only rookie to have won the Western Conference Rookie of the Month this season. Now, he plays with some great guys, but I'm the most impressed with his decision-making off pick and rolls. His level of calmness and composure is elite. Again, we saw that in Toronto. On the season, he's averaging 12 points, right around 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in just over 31 minutes per game. His team and his coaches completely trust him. Let's bring in the power right now, and that is Lu Dort. He is playing great basketball in the last 5 games. He's averaging right around 25 points per game. And I mean, we got to be proud of our fellow Canadian, of course, but you look at the way he plays, and he is one of the tough one-on-one guys to guard. He's so explosive. His first step is unreal, but he's also capable of making threes, and he certainly likes to take them too. And everybody in the league knows that Lu Dort can put you on a poster. So when he's on the court, nobody wants to be that guy. So the Toronto Raptors have their hands full on Wednesday night.
Now we got to talk about where the Raptors are currently sitting in the Eastern Conference. They are 6th right now and 4.5 games behind the leader, the Miami Heat. Wonder who we just beat recently. Jonesy. Let's talk about the Raptors and how, before last week, we're talking about how they would not be the team that you would want to see in the first round. But the way that the Raptors are progressing this season, they might end up in the top 4.
You don't want to see them, period, if they're playing the way they are now and they're healthy. And, I just got off the phone before we sat to record this with a player personnel director from another NBA team. And he was laughing. He said, "How are you guys doing that up there? How, there's no star, quote unquote. How are you guys doing it?" And it's the way the Raptors have always done it, not being a team that has, a high profile star. Okay. The Kawhi trade notwithstanding, but you do it together, you do it collectively. And I mean, look at the standings. Everybody looks at the total number of games, but the column that you really control is your loss column. As we record this right now, there are only 2 games in the loss column out of second. They've got 23 losses. All the teams in front of them, all the way up to second, have 21. So they are going to be a tough out if they're healthy. That's just a fact of the way the playoffs are, with the experience they have. 3-4 guys that have still had their hands on the trophy and know what it's about, know what that climb is about. So yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could climb higher than 6, up to 5, up to 4. Who knows? And then, Sherm has talked about this. We've all said this. Is there anybody in the Eastern Conference above or below Toronto that you would say, "Oh, I don't think the Raptors, that's a good matchup. I don't think they should play them"? And the answer is no. The answer is no. So bring on all comers. And the thing that I like about the Raptors right now is they're concentrating on themselves. It's about their team and what they do on both sides of the ball, not necessarily what the other team does.
And I think there's a correlation between the health of our team and the progress that we've seen them make it within the standings. If you look at the Eastern Conference standings, It wasn't that long ago. The Nets were at the top of the standings or close to, and now they're currently at 7th. It's just tells you just how much of a tight race. And yes, they lost KD, but it still goes to show you just how fickle, I guess, the standings really are. But sure, let's look at the season overall. There was a lot of injuries, of course, but the Raps are now 11-4, the starting lineup of Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG, Scotty, and Siakam. What are some minor things that this lineup can improve on going forward?
Oh, first of all, you talked about their health. The Raptors have gotten healthy, and that's huge for the Raptors in terms of just creating consistency and understanding roles and defining roles more clearly. But when you talk about changes that being healthy brings to your team, the first thing is the continuity, the ability to play repetitive games, be around each other, understand tendencies, in different parts of the game, and understand each other's way of being on the floor. The other thing that you think about when you talk about the Raptors being healthy is, they can always get better defensively. They can always continue to grow on the defensive end. And, Nick Nurse having certain guys to throw into the game at certain junctures, they can be a stifling defensive team, so they can always improve. But in terms of the offensive end, look, they're good. They do a great job moving the basketball. And when they do that, they're tough to beat. But you think about it, they still have multiple guys that can score the ball. And on any given night, guys can get it going. And the beauty of this team is that they're willing to share the basketball and let the guy who got it going to keep going. And I think that when you're healthy, you're able to focus on things like that. Not worry about yourself, worry about the team. And no guy has to step out and play bigger than themselves because everybody's going to fulfill their role. So the idea of the changes or the minor things that they can get better at, it's an overall approach, and it comes with everybody being available. Look, Ken Burch used to start for this team. He's coming off the bench right now, but he's another piece that makes his team significantly better. And I just think that the more guys get to play together, the continuity, the confidence, the understanding, the respect, all of those things grow in leaps and bounds. And this team can continue to strive to be the team that they're going to be, because this Eastern Conference right now, other than the top three teams, when you look at the East, they look like they're going to be there right now. But, Cleveland's in front of the Raptors. I'm not worried about Cleveland. I think they're a good team, but the Raptors can definitely get to them. Philadelphia's in front of them. Who knows what happens if there's a trade with James Harden going to Philly? There's so many things that could happen. What we know is the Raptors are becoming a consistent team because they're healthier.
That is exactly it. Trade deadline is approaching. So we don't know how this league could potentially shape up in the near future here. So it's definitely exciting times, but you could watch the Raptors take on the Oklahoma City Thunder Wednesday, February 9th at 8 p.m. Watch it on Sportsnet. Listen to it on TSN. From myself, Savanna Hamilton, Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, Amy Audibert, Jake, and Garth, thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.